Welcome to the video about ChatGPT integration in Data Director. With this integration, you can use artificial intelligence to extract information from texts and to generate texts from technical data or other attributes. In detail, I'd like to explain you how you can infer technical data from texts, so single attributes, like you have a product description and want to extract the color or the category data or whatever. And then a second topic will be that we can create texts based on technical data or other attributes. So the goal is to create a full-featured product description. And at last, I'd like to show you how you can modify the prompt which we send to ChatGPT to get really individual results. So let's start with inferring technical data from texts. So at first, you will create your data model, preferably with a workshop from Blackbit. But anyway, at the end, you will have several fields which you have to fill with some data. And may it be for your existing products or for new products, this means a lot of work. In the case of a distributor or reseller, you often get a CSV file or another file format which only contains the data in an unstructured way. For example, all the technical data is in the product description. And the goal is to use this product description as our source of information to fill object brick fields for technical data, material, colors, and gender. So in our case, we have a supplier CSV file for clothes, and we want to extract those data. So our goal is that we send input data to ChatGPT, for example, product name, Wrangler men's casual t-shirt, and the product description. And as a result, we want to fill all the object brick fields. For example, this is a cotton t-shirt, so material is cotton. The colors is orange and blue. This comes from our class definition or object brick field definition for colors that only allows blue. Although the t-shirt is navy in real, we do not have the color navy. So ChatGPT is intelligent enough to know that the most similar color to navy is blue. And another attribute is gender. It found that it's a male t-shirt because there is men's in the product name. So let's see how this can work in Pimcore. I've prepared a product class which has really limited set of fields. We have the product name and the supplier description. This will be our input fields for ChatGPT to infer the technical data. Those technical data fields are in object bricks. So we have here the technical data object brick container, and we have an object brick class clothing, which contains those materials. And as I'd mentioned, there's the colors field, it's a multi-select, and we have allowed options blue, red, green, orange, blue, red, orange, green. I'd like to also say that the values here are on purpose a bit cryptic. This is only to show you that also technical values or keys can be used in combination with ChatGPT. So our supplier has provided us a CSV file which contains the product name and the product description. This is the only fields, the only information which we have to infer the technical data, like for example the material, this is here cotton lycra, and the color and the gender, for example, women's cycling shorts. Now let's look how we can implement this in a data port. We create data port import products, and our source data type is CSV file. As an import source, we will use the CSV file which we got from our supplier, and our target folder for the objects is products. Now the only fields which we need is the product name the PID, which is the SKU in our data model, and the description. All the other information we do not need. Now in the data mapping, in the attribute mapping, we map the object name to be the product name, the product name to be the product name, and supplier description to be the description. Then we map the SKU. In the CSV file, this is named PID. It's automatically marked as our key attribute because SKU is a unique field in our class definition. And now there are the object brick fields, which will contain our technical data. You see it here at the bottom. And there we also map the product description, but we check in the settings of this field, we check the checkbox automatically infer from given text. When we check that, we enter our OpenAI API key and we are done. It now takes the product description as an input and tries to infer the material. So we see it here, that's the input, and it infers the cotton lycra as a material. So we can do the same for colors and gender. And we already see it here in the preview that it should work. Now let's create those objects. At first, we extract the data from our CSV file. And now I'd like to test it with this first item here from our CSV file, which we have seen in the preview in the attribute mapping. Now we see it here. The colors it inferred to blue and red, and this is our values for the select options. For the gender it inferred female, and for the material it inferred cotton lycra. So let's look at the object. Here it is, and here at the bottom we see that the object brick got filled, material is set, the colors are set, and the gender is set. So now we can start the complete import. I've made a cut here to not let you wait all this time, because currently the models of ChatGPT are quite overloaded and also a bit slow. So you see for our almost 300 items, it took half an hour to infer those 3 fields. So of course it's faster than a human would have needed, but currently this is the situation. The values get stored in cache, so when you execute this import multiple times, then it will not need this amount of time again and again. Yes, and at the end, we have nicely structured product data. Let's see in the grid. Let's add our 3 object brick fields. And see here we have all those fields filled. So let's look here. Yes, black I do not have as a allowed color, so it did not get returned. Here for this product, it only returned red. So in general, this works, although it's currently a bit slow, but we are working on this to group the requests, and maybe also ChatGPT will become faster in future. Now let's come to the second topic for today, create texts based on technical data. So imagine you are a merchant, then you get product texts from your suppliers, but all other distributors, all other merchants for this manufacturer will get the same product descriptions. So it is the question how to stand out compared to your competitors. And one example can be to create unique product descriptions. So let's take as an input the data which we have inferred in our first step, and let's ask ChatGPT to create a product description out of it. Let's see if we can do this with a data port. Recreate a data port, generate product description. Our source data type this time is Pimcore objects, so we want to use existing Pimcore data. One little side note also for the inferring of technical data, we can use existing fields, of course. It does not have to be done based on the CSV import from your supplier. It can also use existing data. But back to text generation. Source data class is product, and we add some fields, namely ID. Then we want the product name to be used. And we want the technical data, our object brick fields. Right. And in attribute mapping, we map ID to ID to update the just saved product. And then we come to the description. I've decided to not override the supplier description and to put the generated product description into a separate field. Now here we have the option to select a field which we want to use, but in our case we want to use both of those fields as an input for the text generation. So we will use the callback function. Now here we could access params raw item data and build the input parameter, the input string ourselves, because the goal is to have input parameters like this: product name, material, colors, gender. All this data we have. Here's the name, and all the technical data is also available. To simplify this process, we do not have to implement this manually, but we can use the template function output all raw data fields as list. Now this will generate some code, and when we look here, then that's exactly or almost the same as in the PDF. We have the product name and we have the technical data as a list of fields. Now, when we want to generate a new text with ChatGPT, there is this checkbox automatically generate. When we check this, then we have to input our OpenAI API key and we can select the text length. So for now, let's keep it short and click Save. Now, as this field is a WYSIWYG field, you already see here at the right side that it also supports HTML output. Now this is the text which is generated based on this input. Now let's see if this really works, and then also look at the quality of code, quality of text, sorry. We import this and open this object. And then we see here at the English description field, this is our generated text. That's the product name, our must-have for any female cyclist, made of blend of cotton and lycra. This is the material. These come in two vibrant colors, blue and red. And it always adds some marketing information or some emotional information. And this makes those texts really, really alive. It's not only filling a template with placeholders. Yes, and the rest of the text also, it is quite a good quality which gets generated here. Now, in the real world, you would not start text generation with the Data Director interface. But it would be nice for your text creators and editors to have an opportunity to directly start the text generation from the object editing view. So let's take another product. For example, this one here, B-Base striped boys polo blue t-shirt. When we open this, then here at the top, we see this Data Director drop down. And as for all imports and exports, you can also directly access them with this button. And when we click that, Then the text gets generated, and here we see the result. This eBay striped boys polo blue t-shirt is a stylish and comfortable addition to any young boy's wardrobe. Again, it used our input. This is the product name, 100% cotton is the material, and so on and so on. So it created a good product description which you could take as a basis for your own editing or directly publish it on your output channels. And of course, as for all data ports, you can also start them with a right click on the data object tree, and then there is this import submenu. And if you have exports, of course, there's also an export submenu. Now let's come back to configuring text generation. We have seen here in the settings that we have set text length 1. Here it says approximately 1 paragraph. Of course, it was more than that, but in the end, this is not important. It is rather short. If you want longer text, then you can also select medium or long. And let's see what gets generated then. As an algorithm, we will use the text which got generated in the first iteration, and in the prompt say that ChatGPT should continue this text in the next iteration with more details and more explanations. So it will take a bit longer and also cost twice the price, but in the end you will have a longer text. Now here you see the result. Is it much longer? It is much longer. Now let's put this into our object. And we see that it's really a longer text. In the beginning it's fairly similar. It's not exactly the same because even if you send the same input data to ChatGPT 2 times, there will always be a different output. Yes, so again, it uses our input data, but here this long part at the end, crafted from high quality, perfect balance of comfort and flexibility, so on and so on. This is fairly new, and as I said, it adds some more details, some more emotions, so you can configure the lengths which you will need for your output channels. Now, one word about localized fields. We have here currently 2 languages, English and German, and now when we copy this mapping to the German field, then it will automatically create a German text. This also works for input data. It is not an exact translation, so it really creates a new text. So when we look at this again in the object view, now it's finished. Then we will see here that it now created a German description. Here, for example, ChatGPT created an HTML list, also with bold attributes. And I think such a text is really looking nice, and it is a high quality. Of course, not all of you will understand German, but I can tell you that from the technical details, everything is the same as in English, but it's really a different text. It's not an exact translation. So this will bring high quality to your text data. And now some words about the pricing, because ChatGPT is not for free. We currently use the GPT 3.5 Turbo model, and as it said here, this costs 0.2 cents US cents per 1,000 tokens. A token is said to be a syllable roundabout. So it's not words, it's not characters, it's around a syllable. And to this amount of tokens, it is not only the returned tokens, but also the input tokens. So the longer your input is, of course, then you get more specific texts with more information, but this also uses more tokens. So the longer the input or the longer the output, it will cost more money. But compared to real human workers who create texts or who try to extract technical data out of texts, compared to them, this is really rather cheap. And as the last topic for today, I'd like to show you how to modify the prompt. Now, as I've said before, the mapped content here, what we have here, this is not really the prompt. But in the background, we will wrap some more information, some more context about what you actually want to do. So we send the class name which you are wanting, which you want to generate data for. We're sending the field name. We are also sending limitations like the select options, available option. We have seen that before for the color, where we only had an option for blue, but our text contained navy, and ChatGPT was clever enough to map that navy to blue. All those information we put into the prompt. But if you are not satisfied with that, you can modify the prompt. For example, we have those fields which we had before, same as above here. But now we want to target our audience because those are younger people. We want to use youth language. And if we do that, then you see the output completely changes. This is really a text for young people. Yo, check out this sick shirt from Wrangler. If this is your target audience, this may be a perfect fit. So you have multiple ways to modify the prompt. The first thing, of course, is to simply add things, add information at the end of this function here. Of course, you can also use your own function. At the end, you should send some data to ChatGPT. Now, if we do that, you see it here on the right side. Now generated a text looking for some cool cycling shirts to rock on your next ride. This is more or less a bit targeting younger people. And so this way you can modify the prompt and thus modify the output. Another opportunity to modify the prompt is that you can completely generate an own prompt, a custom prompt, without all those magic, what I've just told, that the class name is added and so on and so on. If you really want to do the prompt yourself, you can use no prompt extension. When you do that, you are really responsible yourself for the prompt. So for example, if we return create a product description for a params raw item data name, then it will also create a product description. But this time there is no information about the material or anything else because we did not send it. Now this is more or less a custom implementation, just direct API to ChatGPT if you do not want to use the magic behind the scenes, which automatically converts such input data as we see here below into a prompt. Yes, maybe now it's time for an outlook into the future. We will extend this ChatGPT integration also to features like relations. So for example, that you can automatically assign certain categories or certain cross-selling products based on certain information. Or an even more advanced topic will be image creation. So there are nice artificial intelligence APIs which, for example, can put your images into a background, so you have nice use case photos. But in future, it will be that you only have a clean product shot, product photo of your t-shirt, and you can ask an artificial intelligence service to give you a model photo. So, for example, create a photo of a female model, 20 years old, white skin color with this t-shirt. And the output will be that this model will really wear your t-shirt. And this will be, again, groundbreaking, similar to those text generation features which we currently have. So in my opinion, artificial intelligence and a PIM system perfectly fit together, because here you can generate unique data which your business will profit from on all the output channels and all the use cases. So I hope you are as excited as I am about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence in general. I hope you found it useful. If you have any more questions, put them in the comment section here or write us an email. Thanks for watching this video. Bye-bye.